Jay White, good morning.
Yeah, not so great of a morning. I hate to tell you.
What's happening?
Oh, well, when you do rehab on a total knee replacement without medication, it tends to be not all that pleasant. So this morning is not. I'm actually sweating. I'm in so much pain. So
hang on. So you're telling me that you're so tough. I mean, we know how tough you are. You're so tough that you're not taking pain medication because of your total knee replacement?
It's not that I'm tough. I'm allergic to everything because trust me, in the last several days, trust me when I say I would be happy to have been medicated. It's not that. I'm not trying to just tough it out. I just can't take anything. I'm allergic to everything. It's weird because it's like a digestive tract allergy because they can give it to me IV, but I can't take it orally. And because if I do, then I break out in hives and I quit breathing, and that's kind of a problem. So I'm stuck.
What about some kind of topical or something?
You know, they haven't given me anything like that, and I haven't really mentioned it. I need to probably go back and ask her about that today. But I've just been doing Tylenol and ibuprofen off and on, and I try not to do it if I can help it. But I went in yesterday, and I'm competitive, right? And I was like tootling in. I'm like, no walker, no, I'm like, I look how great I'm doing, and they go, you're not doing very well. And I went, what? And they go, your knee should be at 90 already. And I went, no.
Well, I kind of into this. I want to, after we talk to Chris and after he gets off the program, I want to go into the Trump RX situation because I'm highly, highly disturbed about that. But we'll talk about that later.
What is the Trump RX situation? What did I miss?
Trump has signed a deal with Pfizer, and they're going to license his name to do prescriptions out of the White House called Trump RX. I mean, come on, give me a break.
Okay, if I start crying, it's probably because everything is just too much.
So anyway, I want to talk about that later after we talk to Chris.
Between the pain, the physical pain, and all the emotional pain,
some mental pain. I'm giving you some mental anguish.
It's too much. I just can't take it. And I love you there. I know I need to try to find a better CBD than I have. It works. I have a CBD lotion that I use that works great on my neck, but yeah, and I'm going to ask if I can get back on it because I took a nerve blocker. It's a brand new one called Gervanex, and it's supposed to be a peripheral nerve blocker. So it's not like gabapentin where it affects the central nervous system because I don't need to be goofier than I am already. And I got off of it because I wasn't really sure what it was doing, but I think I'm going to have to go try something else because if I can't rehab because I'm, going, no, and screaming and crying, we're not going to get anywhere. So I'm going to have to do something different.
Hey, well, just remember, even though you're in pain, this is what I tell my family, and they hate it. My family hates it. It's making sure you're still alive. Pain lets you know you're still alive. You're still there. You're doing okay.
Yeah, well, I won't say it, but yeah, okay. All right. So if you see me scooting around, that's what it is. I'm just trying to have to figure out a way so that I'm not going to sit here and just cry. So we have a really great show this morning. Chris Stevens is on with us. He's a pastor in Tulsa. I'm going to let him talk about himself. I don't need to talk about him for him. But for those of you who have been paying attention, our resident Kingstead had a plan for the homeless population in Tulsa. And that was basically just to bring in some bulldozers and bulldoze everything out. And I don't think that that's probably going to be the solution. I think it's a short-term solution for sure. And if I was a resident around there, I would be happy to see something happen. But I think this is a much deeper problem. And Chris Stevens was suggested to us by actually, I think, a couple of our viewers from the Tulsa area. And they said, hey, you need to have him on. And he's very generously consented to be on this morning to talk about this.
And before you bring him on, I just want to make one little comment because I just want people to think about, because that when you sent me Chris's email with his bio and all stuff, I mean, it's just mind blowing. But that's it's kind of what you say all the time, Jenny, that the government doesn't need to do all these programs to help people. The community, the church, especially the church community, they can handle these problems in a very much more effective and efficient manner. And you've always said that constantly, but there's no better example after reading all that stuff with Chris. There's no better example than Chris and what he's going to say about how we, the people, can really handle the problem and the situation.
Well, and I'm going to say the church should be handling this. So I'm going to bring on Chris this morning, possibly good morning, Chris Stevens.
Hey,
how are
guys.
you today?
Good morning.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. It's great. Yeah.
So give us a little bit about you. You sent me a bio, but I don't like to read it. You talk about you.
Yeah, right. Sure. So real simple, and hopefully my head is cleared up here this morning. I've been fighting some junk for the last couple of nights and up at about 3 a.m. So if I stumble around on my words, my brain might not just be awake yet, but
you're good.
Anyway, yeah. So I started going into jail and doing prison ministry and working with men and women coming off the streets for about 14 years ago. And we started going into David L. Moss, Tulsa County Jail, for those that don't know. And, working with the guys right when they got out. I knew right away when I went in, I didn't want to just preach a message. And there's a practical side to Christianity, obviously. So I started giving out my phone number and said, hey, call me when you get out, make it the first call that you make. Here's I started learning. Here's what's funny. 14 years ago, when I had no experience, I don't come from a drug life. I don't come from the streets. I don't come from, prison and all of this type of stuff. And so I just started inquiring. It's like, hey, how did you get here? And it is funny that I look back because the stories are all the same. And so everything they started telling me back then, in the last couple of years, when I put together some reports and I start looking up stats, and I was like, well, there's exactly what they told me. And those stories that were the same were, hey, I was given drugs at 5 or 7.
No, Chris.
I'm telling you, it will blow your mind, right? The abuse, the trauma, mom and dad, one or both were in and out of prison. I remember a guy who told me, yeah, my dad started teaching me how to go steal at 7, right? And you learn when someone's blowing smoke, right? Because there's a lot of that in between. But when every story is the same, you start, it's like, wow, there really is some consistency. And then you start to think, and this is all you've done. Or, well, I would be here in the same position if, that had happened to me as well. And I'm not making excuses at all. I am all for the law and law enforcement, and we need to be, and we can dive into that a little bit later. But you fast forward to today and some of the stats that will go on later, and you'll see, wow, it's all right there. Of why we're in this situation with such an overcrowded prison population, not just homeless, because they're all kind of related, but prison and the homeless population, et cetera. So I'm sorry, I kind of jumped off script there. I'll back up. So we started doing that. I started placing men and women in programs. They started calling me when they got out, and it wasn't too long before my phone was ringing more than I could answer calls. And so I found out that these men and women, they have no family. They have nobody to go back to. If there's any semblance of that at all, it's nothing more than the drug life and things along that nature. And that's all they've known. Most of these men and women have never been in regular society. We need to break so many myths. And one of them being that, these are all people that just came from a normal life and fell on hard times. And that is That just couldn't be farther from the truth. I mean, yes, there's a couple of those, okay? But we've all been through divorces. We've all been through loss of a life. We've all been through loss of a job at a hard time. And, it didn't make us go stand on a corner for 6 months, not take a shower and hold a sign, right? And sleep on a tent and condition. No, there's got to be a whole lot of other factors to bring someone to that place, okay? So we started working with the programs in town, and because I started thinking, well, we've got to rehabilitate their life. And so how are we going to do that? And so I just started calling around and finding programs that offer 6 months, a year, something along that nature to basically really help them fight the addiction issues that they're facing and teach them life skills, which they don't have, relationship skills, which they don't have, all of the things that you and I take for granted that most of us started to get by 12 and 14 and 15, that these men and women never got the opportunity to. Yeah, it's really heartbreaking when you think about it. And I say this all the time, a lot of and I don't mean this as a bash or a down at all, but, a lot of the men and the women that I work with, you're dealing with adults, or you're dealing with children in grown men bodies.
Yeah. Children in adult clothes.
Yeah. And you have to go back and teach them the life skills that they need, the coping skills, the emotional skills. You have to undo the trauma. You have to bring healing. There's so much more involved in this than what people imagine. They didn't just get here overnight. That's not easy to get to that point. So,
well, let me stop and back up a second, because the other part that I thought was fascinating about you is, how did you get to where you are?
In what sense? What specifically? What do you mean?
I mean, what made you just wake up and go, well, I think I'm going to tackle this homeless issue?
Oh, gotcha. So, well, if we'll fast forward just a little bit, I did what I was just saying for about 8-9 years, and God had told me previously to start a church, and we were waiting. When the time happened, and He told me it was time to go. Finally, I took a handful of those guys, and we started a church. And that church was 100% geared towards men and women coming out of prison, everybody that society had given up on. And so about 5 times, a couple of them had come to me and they were like, hey, we see these guys on the streets and we want to help them, and the homeless and this and that. And I said, well, okay, let's do it. So we started, this was about 2018. We started a outreach once a month where we went out and did a church service outside. We would go set up chairs, take out music, just love on people, food, whatever. But we were very intentional when we went out. I will say that. So, because I had many times would come back and tell my team, look, we're not a feeding program. We're not a clothing program. I'd have at times where I would even shut those things down and say, we're not bringing clothes or anything else out, because we want to be so intentional when we go out that we're looking for people who want help. But so we started doing church outside, what I call today, and we still do that to this day. We started doing church outside. Because, Jesus left the 99, guys, right? Come on. You talk about the church thing, and this is where I get excited. If we're going to do what the church is supposed to do, these men and women are not coming to buildings. I mean, I know if I go through a hard time in life, I don't run to go open my heart and emotions and life to a church somewhere and say, hey, help me and heal me, And so these men and women are especially not coming into a building. So we have to go to them. And we leave the 99 and we go to find that one. Well, it was a natural fit. So to give a little more background, I've been an insurance broker for 20 plus years. And so it's always been something I do as far as connecting people. And so when we started ministering to them, it's the same concept. Okay, how can I help you rehabilitate your life? Yes, there's some different elements to it. There's a lot of crossover between men and women coming out of prison. And those on the streets, there's some very different elements. Those on the streets that have gone a lot farther down into darkness, and they take a lot more work. It takes a lot longer, but there's a lot of the same elements. So we just started, hey, who's ready to go? And that's one of the conversations I have with them after we go love on them, after we'll preach to them. And the preaching to them, just so we're clear, is to help them encounter the presence of God, right? To encounter the love of God. I mean, I've preached for 14 years, and I've never planned or prepared a message one. But what I do is I sit back and I like, okay, God, I observe what have you had me say these 14 years? And here's the common thread in the message from God. He's always trying to bring light into darkness, and he's always trying to give a man or a woman, no matter what stage you're in, he's got to give you hope before he can give you the message of, hey, you are the problem, right?
Yeah. No, that's a good point. That's a really good point for sure.
You know, yeah, you do. Before you can tell someone how to correct them, you've got to bring them, you've got to be the light in the darkness, and you've got to cause them to breathe again, to believe again, to see again. I mean, most of these men and women, they are so far stuck in addiction and despair and darkness. Obviously, they can't walk themselves out. So that's what we started. We started doing church outside, and we've been doing that since 2018. And that, again, the same goal. Let me walk you off the streets. Let me help rehabilitate your life. I like to, and I teach my team this when we go to pray for people even, you know, I ask them, what do you want prayer for? And here's a novel idea, guys. And I love the fact in the sense that we don't know each other. I don't know either one of your backgrounds. I don't know your spirituality as far as Christianity and where you come from, all of this. But, you know, it's real simple. We could just always do what Jesus did. You know, how about that concept? And if you'll see when Jesus ministered to someone, he always asked them, I mean, the blind man, again, if you'll just step back and observe and you ask yourself why, right? I think this is the question we miss so much. Why? Jesus asked him, what do you want? I mean, the guy's blind. What do you mean? Okay, but wait a minute, Jenny. The guy's homeless. What do you mean? What does he want? He's hungry. No, ask him what they want. And you'll be surprised at the answers that you get. So you have to locate that person and the desire of their heart that you just ministered to. Did you touch them enough? Are they ready enough that they want to get off the streets? And do they want to stop doing dope? Or do they just want a pair of shoes and a backpack? Or do they want a job? Or do they want prayer for their family? So we'll ask them, hey, what's the one thing, if God were to do anything for you today, what's the one thing that you want? And the answer will surprise you many times. Because it's all of those things I just listed. Sometimes it's as simple as shoes, a backpack. There's a lot of people like, yeah, I want work. And sometimes it's, I want to get off the streets. And that's when we say, hey, are you ready to go? You want it? Because then we try to fit that need. We try to meet that need instantly, right? I mean, let's just, by design, let's show them how God works. This is what you said you want. Here it is. And we give them that opportunity. Because if they say we're ready to go off the streets, we're going to make that happen.
So do you want me to pull in your slides?
Oh, sure, you can.
You want to?
Yeah.
Okay. Uh-oh. I hope I didn't do the wrong thing. Did I do the wrong thing? Oh, I did. Hold on. I'll have to redo it.
While we're waiting, Chris, this homeless issue, is there more people that are like direct out of prison, or is it just people that had terrible childhoods? I mean, what's kind of the makeup of the percentage of the homeless population there?
Yeah, Michael, that's a great question. The demographics, right? Because there's where people get things confused. There's all types of different kinds of homeless people, right? Now, the biggest ones that we're talking about, however, are those that are on the streets. Okay, you know, that are constantly, are what they call chronically homeless. Okay, there's a whole different demographic of what you just said, those coming out of prison. And it's a different type of homeless. Yes, they're homeless right when they walk out the door, right? Think about that. Most of them didn't have anything to go to when they went in, but they definitely don't have anything to go back to when they come out.
It just breaks my heart. It's just so, you know, I think and I'm sorry to interrupt here, but you know, we walk around every day, so many of us secure in what we have, you know, knowing what the next day is going to be, sometimes even complaining because it's boring, it's routine.
Yeah.
And yet there are people who literally have no place to go. And I think so many people just want to think, just go away. And I think I do think, and I was thinking about this before you came on, I think it hurts people. I think there are two problems on the outside, not with what you're dealing with, but on the outside of that.
Yeah.
I think there are two problems. People, it hurts them so bad to think that people are in that situation that it's easier to do nothing than it is to try to wade into it because it's just too painful for them. And then I think the other thing is people genuinely, well, maybe three. I think people are scared of people who are homeless. They don't look like them. They don't smell like them. They don't act like them. They don't understand them, and therefore they're scared. And so that's another problem, another barrier. And then I think another one is people don't know what to do. People don't have time to go drop everything and go minister to these people. They don't know what the resources are out there. And so I think it's really hard. I know I feel helpless a lot when I look at homeless people, but then you have the other thing of, like John Boyce said a second ago, not everyone out there is homeless. Some are bums, the ones that are hiding or running or don't want to be found or have the responsibility of paying taxes or being accountable. And he's right. I mean, there are some of those out there too. And so you want to help the people that need help, but you don't want to help the people that are just basically putting a middle finger up to society. So, I mean, how do you deal with all those problems?
Well, you brought up some great points, and one of the biggest ones I find too is one that you said is people are scared of what they don't know. Yeah. Like we all are. Like, face it. And I was too. I was that guy too. And I, would have drove right by and all of these different things. And most people are. And there's if we're also going to be real honest, we have most of the church that are just living for themselves. Right. We have Christians that are. It has become Christianity has become self-service. Right. So you got to lay it down. And then I love your point again. People, you don't know what to do because it is something that is deep and complex, and you have to really dive into. And what difficult or what complex problem have you solved by just skimming the surface of it in life? You don't. And so you spin your wheels. And as far as that goes, but so back to your point, there's all kinds of demographics, right? And we'll even stay out of the, I don't know how many, 20 to 30 to 40 to 50,000 people who are paycheck to paycheck and can be homeless overnight.
Yes.
And I'll put a little blurb in. And what's interesting are those individuals can be the hardest to help because of all of the services are all tied up for those who are chronically homeless. And you can't find those individuals any help if they're not on drugs or if they're not, having a schizophrenic moment, or if they're not, he's like, oh, you work and you have a job and you just lost it. It's like, man, sorry. There's nothing to help you, right? So yes, you have to figure out what you're dealing with. That's one of the first steps of the person when you're talking to them. And that's why I try to tell people and help them is like, look, you got to ask a lot of questions. Why is this person homeless and which category do they fit into? Because otherwise you don't know how to help them and what you're dealing with. And, everybody in most categories of life, we talk about that easy hanging fruit. Everybody's like, oh, don't just go for the low hanging fruit. It's like, no, this is where you do go for the low hanging fruit because those are the easy cases. Like I want to help everybody in that sense when I go out. Right. And it's more rewarding to see the difficult cases get help. But at the same time, if I see some low hanging fruit, it's like, oh, wow, you're not on drugs. You're not drinking. Man, you look like you've got things together. Why are you here? And what can we do to solve this problem quickly? Because you occasionally you'll run into these cases where it's like, oh, well, we could just walk you off the streets in 2 days. You're not going to be a problem. Come on, let's go. And I think that's where a lot of people miss it too, because they're so focused on everybody else that these easy ones, it's like, help them out. I've got a single mother with 3 kids, and who knows what happened. She went through a divorce and then lost her job. And if you want to talk about where a church could really step in, okay, you don't understand the complexities of drug addiction. You don't understand the trauma, the mental illness, the abuse. And also, you don't want to put yourself in danger, especially women. But this is not that case over here. So why aren't we doing something about that, right? But okay, questions before I go on, because most of what we're dealing with on the streets is one demographic, right? And we can get into what that looks like and how they got there very specifically.
Well, let me throw up your slides. Maybe that'll help.
Yeah, and let's go to first, before we get to that, let's start with, if you can, let's start with root causes.
Okay, hold on.
There you go.
Is that the one you want to start with?
Yeah, glory to God.
Perfect.
This is the one that, you either love me or hate me for saying this one. I have a saying politically, Republicans or conservatives do nothing and Democrats do the wrong thing. Okay?
Oh my gosh, I think that's probably 100% accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason why I say you love me or hate me, because the people that I run with the most, obviously, that are doing something, they're all liberal. And they're all Democrats, and they hate me because I deal with root causes and I do put responsibility on the person. I'm not naive or deceived that this person that I'm dealing with is 100% the problem. Okay, and so they had circumstances that they were born into, but Jenny and Michael and Chris are not the problem that's causing their homelessness. Okay, so. And I say that because all of the authorities in the city, especially in Tulsa, I'm just going to be real plain. First of all, they just blatantly lie, and they don't tell the truth as far as what's the root causes. I mean, you have the major organizations like Housing Solutions, right? That was Mayor Bynum's baby, and any city official, and the city councilors, and all of these major multi-million-dollar nonprofits. You notice my two first listings, the number 2 cause is drugs and child welfare. They don't even have drugs in the top 8 as far as causes for homelessness.
No, Chris. Wow. Now, I'm
yes.
not acquainted completely with this issue, but that seems like STUPID.
Common sense, isn't it? Common sense.
Holy cow.
They push homelessness as a housing shortage. Completely. 100%. That is 99% their message. I went to one of their annual meetings just several months ago, which I hadn't been in years. We've got this big, if you don't know, I'm going to break down, we have this big continuum of care. COC is what they call it. And that's where all of the organizations that are fighting homelessness and these things come together. We form a group and to fight this as a city. And that's what Housing Solutions is, the head organization that leads it. And this is the way the money trickles down and started coming down from the Biden administration, which gobs of money were released in this. And so the continuum of care here in Tulsa probably has 80 some organizations. Like I said, I don't know how many, but a dozen plus multi-million-dollar organizations. And I was at a meeting, their annual meeting, for about 4 hours. And I got so sick of hearing and them pushing all of the propaganda of all we have to do is get more houses. All we have to do is get more houses. And what's amazing, besides common sense, guys, and this is what frustrates me, besides common sense, because before I ever got started, when I started looking at this, I was like, well, that's not right. That can't be true. This doesn't make sense. But if that's not enough for you, if you can't think on your own, their housing first policies, their theories, their strategies have literally failed in our backyard because they have tried them before. And they failed across the country. They failed in California for decades. Okay. This message that they push, that if we just house people, then we can, it'll solve the problem. So they hate to admit that drugs is an issue. As a matter of fact, in these meetings, this will get me kicked out and it'll get stones thrown at me. So let's dive into
it. Wait, hold on a second though, Chris. I want to find out the root reason. Why is it they don't want to acknowledge this as a problem? Because they will turn around in order to get money for another program and tell you how many people in Oklahoma are hooked on drugs.
I don't know if I can answer all of their logic and reasoning. To be honest, it's bewildering. I will say this, and not to go too far, but the root of it all to me stems from we're dealing with a people that's without God. And some people think, oh, that's so spiritual. But again, I'm going to come back to one of my statements earlier. Spiritual is practical, and if you go back to a history lesson, back to the 1950s, 1960s, when I wasn't alive still, but you had God in our country, God in our schools, and prayer and Bible reading, you take all that out. Okay. And I'm not talking about forcing Christianity. I'm just talking about a foundation of wisdom and morality, common sense, right? You take that out, and the first 3 generations, they seem pretty normal. They're not too far. Tell me, who wouldn't do anything to have a 1990s Democrat around today versus what we have?
Those are the Republicans right now.
That's right? I mean, I love when they play the old clips of Bill and Hillary Clinton and all of these guys. It's like, man, y'all sound like Donald Trump today, But now we're on 7 generations of crazy. We're 5 to 7 generations of without God. And so I just want to bring out the unnatural way of thinking to the point where that whole group of people is calling men women and women men and think that you can do that. I mean, you see what I'm saying? I'm not trying to bash here, but we are literally to the point of absurdity.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So what Democrats I find have the hardest problem doing is identifying the source of any problem, right? We can go down the line. It's like guns. I've never seen a gun levitate, load itself, and shoot somebody. Come on. But these are the people that, are the experts supposedly in our town who are running all of these major nonprofits. Well, of course you can't solve a problem. Listen, it's business 101. If you can't identify a problem, you can't solve it.
Correct.
Right? And so I have said this for years. You could give these organizations, you could give our current administration, city leadership, and even Biden, not even Biden, but Bynum, not just Mayor, not Monroe Nichols. You could give all of them $10 billion a year. And guys, I tell you, in 10 years, our homeless problem would be worse. It would not be solved.
Yes, I agree.
They don't know how to solve it because they're just mentally off. So I think that's part of the problem. And we see this in every category with them. It doesn't matter what we're talking about. It doesn't matter if we're talking about Black Lives Matter. It doesn't matter if we're talking about guns. It doesn't matter if we're talking about the whole LGBTQ and the trans thing or homelessness. Notice one common thread. They don't properly identify the problem.
Well, it's the same thing with education.
Yeah.
That's why we have to have more and more money, because they won't stop and deal with the actual problem, which is we're not teaching anymore. They want to just throw money at it. So I mean, I totally understand that. So if the top 2 are drugs and overall child welfare, what do we? I don't even know. It's so frustrating.
Let me give you a few fun facts before we dive into what you do. Okay. So because people would be, and I'll cover this real quick. Yes, drugs, overall child welfare. A lot of people like to deal with trauma and mental illness, and that's 100% true. But when we dive into it, you're going to see all of that trauma and mental illness is coming from the child welfare. Okay. So that's why I list the top 2 and I break these out. And then you have extreme poverty and poor education. But again, those bottom 4 really factor into the child welfare, which we'll get into here in a second. If you'll go to the next slide, this is the aha moment for everybody. It should be, if we dive into just some little facts right here. I'll start with the number. Well, first of all, we have a drug craze going on across America, right? Yeah. If we could just get honest, people want their drugs.
Yeah.
And
except for me, and then that's
yes. Who's over here?
Chris, real quick, is marijuana like the main drug here, or like what is the main couple drugs that's the real issue with this homeless situation?
Yeah, good question. No, marijuana is not the main drug, but it is a problem, and people need to not be deceived about that. That leads to the other things as well. Sure, I hated to see even the medical marijuana come through, not because I don't think that that it doesn't help people, not because I don't think that there's a need for it, but I just knew that 98 to 99% of the people using it, it's going to be abused, and it was only going to cause more harm for our problem. So, but let's dive into that. Here's a fun fact for you. Tulsa and Oklahoma City, they are number 2 for highest drug use cities in the nation.
Oh my gosh. How come nobody is talking about this, Chris?
That's exactly what I'm saying. And these are the facts. And you start with the point 1, Oklahoma, we rank, depending on which little survey, and you can Google all these things. This is not hard. I mean, I knew this from 14 years ago when I started working in it, but when I was putting a business plan together, I was like, okay, because everybody says, well, where's your data? I was like, let me see what data is there. And it was within minutes, all of the data backed up what I had found by experience. But so depending on what survey you're looking at, the state of Oklahoma ranks anywhere from number 3 to 8 in overall drug use in the United States.
That's horrible.
It's crazy. We have a drug epidemic that nobody wants to deal with. And it's ugly. It's not easy. It's going to be hard to fix. It is going to be a statewide initiative, right? So you can't just cure that problem overnight. Okay, Michael, good point on the marijuana. Here's something that I didn't know till just the other day. To that whole medical marijuana thing, I saw the numbers of, I think it was, they have closed down in 1 year. Yeah, it was Attorney General Drummond, his office. I saw something from them, have closed down 9,500 illegal China-based marijuana grows in the last year.
Yeah.
And I'm just
like, anybody who lives rurally, Chris, will tell you the same thing.
Yes. And that's the other thing that people forget is so much of Oklahoma is rural. And this is why you get into the extreme poverty. You get into the poor education. You've got nothing to live for. Oh, so you're doing drugs? Well, sure. Let's have fun. Let's do it. And then the cycle begins. But Michael, to your point as well, so let's deal with the hard drugs, because those are obviously the biggest problems. I mean, meth. Like I didn't break down any stats as far as each individual drug use, but they're there. All you got to do is Google it. It's real easy to find. I mean, meth, we're a capital for meth. You know, that's one of the biggest ones here that really takes people down. And so also you got to understand, look at the demographics for the drug use. What makes this such a hot spot? Well, we're so centrally located. So you have, I mean, I don't know what the percentage is. Maybe you guys know like how much of Oklahoma is rural versus not, because so you have that, what is it, 60%, 75, maybe I'm way off. I have no clue, right? So you have extreme poverty. You have all of this rural Oklahoma, and then you have great highway systems for all the cartels and all of the growers and all of the people to come right through. Talk about a disaster waiting to happen. Right? So to me, this is the number one cause of our homeless issue. And also, interestingly enough, it is also one of the number one causes for our incarceration rates. Okay. Most of the people in prison and jail, the vast majority is all going to be drug related. Okay. Or the crime came from drugs. So again, because some people think, oh, we just like to put people in jail. That's not quite the case as most would think, you know. And again, maybe there's some of that in rural America, but rural Oklahoma, but in Tulsa and Oklahoma City, they are doing everything they can to keep people out. Like they're not giving them 3 chances. They're giving them 12. They're giving them 20. They're giving people like, okay, we're going to give you 10 years of prison time on paper. And please don't mess up and don't come back, so we don't have to actually make you serve that time. And they're doing that sometimes 6 times. Okay. And so people get this wrong idea that, you know, we're just throwing people in jail and locking them up. And listen, that system needs revamped and revitalized. It's not perfect either. But as far as this drug thing, I'll just say this, and this would shock people. It's hard to do prison time just by minor drug charges, or even some major ones. Okay. That would shock you too. We could get more into that. So let's look at, drugs.
Well, hold on. I want to put in this one comment because I think this is interesting. This is a topic I can speak on with authority. The do-gooders enable the drug use and hopeless mindset of those living on the streets. Like Dems, they convince the homeless they're nothing without them.
Amen. I agree with it. I 100% agree with it. And
but so Chris, that's awful.
Well, here's the thing. It's a fine line, right? If you don't know that the person you're dealing with is the problem, what do you end up doing? Just like the mom or dad that babies their child. Okay, so it's this fine balance, honestly, because everything I do is borderline enabling the people. But you have to do something if you're going to go reach them with love and kindness. Let me give you to that individual's point. I took a guy off the streets one time. We took him to a program, Wings of Freedom, and we was talking to Pastor Dixie after, and Pastor Dixie said, "Hey, you got anything on you, before you come in tonight? Like, we got to get rid of it." And he said no. I knew instantly. I could tell in his body language and the way he hesitated. I said, "You got something." So we walked out in the parking lot, and right away he said, or I said, I forget one. He said, "Yeah." He said, "I have this bag get this, guys. Are you ready? An outreach had given me." Okay, an outreach. I mean, I shouldn't say it, but it pisses me off. Excuse my language. I get so frustrated, right? And you want to know what was in that brown? He handed me this brown lunch bag. You want to know what was in that brown lunch bag?
Probably not.
Needles and condoms and a bunch of other junk. And so this is the hope that you're taking to these people, right? So yes, it's a fine line. And that's why I tell people, yes, you have to go out with love and intentionality. And that's why the bulk of what I like to do is feed people, because that's just simple kindness. And yes, we know they're the problem, but I've got to do something to reach them in love. What I'm not going to do is pay for their hotel room. I'm not going to pay for their rent for a year. And that is what this Housing First model that Mayor Nichols is doing, and what Housing Solutions does. That's what they do. They just want to pay for the rent and hope that then they'll change because we have them inside. And I forgot to finish that. What's failed before is we've done that. We've housed all of the homeless. Literally, do you guys remember the freeze back in 2021?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so
yes.
Here is glory to God, this is great. So here's a great example of the failed policies from our city leadership and the Democratic mentality. It was the greatest thing I've ever seen, in the sense that all of the organizations came together like never before. And for about 2 weeks, because people would have died left and right. And so, and you have to be kind. I mean, again, we know they're the problem, but listen, we're trying to save people. We are trying to think about eternity. So somewhere you have to do something, right? So
well, let me just say this. I mean, if human life is important, it's not just the guy, it's not the guy you like, it's every human life is important. And if that's the case, that means the guys who don't have a place to go, who may not have had a bath in a week.
That's
so
right.
I think we have to reframe our thought process on that, because if every life is sacred to a Christian, and it should be, or maybe you need to find another religion,
right,
then we have to think about those people as well as, unborn babies and older people, and, all that jazz.
Yeah. I mean, God went as far as love your enemies, right? So,
well, of course.
So here's the thing. We took every known homeless person on the streets, off the streets, and put them in a hotel.
Yeah.
Okay. And they raised all kinds of money. I was out there right in the midst of it for weeks with many of my volunteers, like every other organization. Wow. They were giving the promise of 3 meals a day. They were given the promise for their hotel to be paid for. And get this, guys, this came straight from the top. This was marching orders. We were telling them, repeating it. Everybody was verbatim, a promise to find them permanent housing that would be paid for life. Okay. Yeah. That's the plan.
What?
Yes. Yes. That's the plan. And in 4 days, 50% of them were gone. You cannot keep people housed that have drug and mental health issues and solve a problem. Within a week, 75% were gone. We took a small 300 of them roughly over to one hotel, which was the Fiasco over at 41st and 169. And because they ran it horribly, they brought in so-called experts from out of town, a bunch of Democrats who just want to give these people everything. They didn't have accountability. They didn't have responsibility. They weren't micromanaging it. They weren't doing anything, and they were, at the end of the day, after millions of dollars and a, if you will, a God opportunity because of a storm to really save some lives and help people, they'd be lucky if they got 25 people housed permanently. Now, they may lie and tell you something different, but I think it's more like a dozen. And you could find, and people will tell you, you could find more drugs in that hotel than you can on the streets. And that's another thing, which, again, these people don't want to admit. In any institution where you have these individuals, even prison, you can find more drugs in prison than you can on the streets. Okay,
yeah.
That's a whole nother topic we can get into later. Yeah. So here's failed policy that's happened right in our city, but yet we want to keep doing the same old thing and not even address this issue of drug addiction, right?
Okay, but see, I want to stop right there too, because I want to drill down on this a little bit for people who are watching. We've got a huge audience this morning. For people who are watching, I want to drill down. So much of the stuff that you've been talking about this morning should be common sense, but it's not.
Yes.
It's the whole teach a man to fish versus giving them a fish thing. I mean, almost everybody can recite that parable or that that whatever it is, but then nobody puts the brain engaged long enough to go, well, if we're just handing them needles and we're just giving them drugs, then because that's going to help them somehow feel better, then we're not getting where we need to be. And I think we've got to make people aware that accountability is the only way to make any of this stuff work. You can't give a guy a fish and expect him to eat for the rest of his life. You simply can't do it. It's not even sort of possible, especially what you're talking about when these people don't even have foundational knowledge of just how to be a regular everyday person. I mean, you can't do that. It's not magic and we wouldn't want it to be. So how is it? Because here's what I think is happening just from listening to you talk. And I'm really curious to see what your take on it is.
Sure.
Michael and I, and especially Julianne Romanello, who's also in the Tulsa area, we've talked numerous times about nonprofit organizations. Okay. And nonprofit organizations can be, I'm not going to use a blanket generalization, but I'm going to say can be some of the most pernicious, horrific, damaging things for a community, for a group of people, whatever, because they're not interested. Their bottom line isn't how do we fix the issue? Because think about it. Yeah. If I'm an NGO and I fix the issue that I'm out there raising money to fix, I'm out of a job.
Right.
I don't get any more money.
Yeah.
I've always thought that about the abortion NGOs. You know, we could stop abortion, but I think secretly they don't want to because their jobs are gone. If they do, then there's no, well, what? Give me some money to get rid of abortion, but you already did. Oh yeah, I forgot. I mean, this is the worst thing I think ever, and it's one of the things nobody ever talks about. I mean, I think me and Michael and Julianne are the only people that have ever actually given voice to that notion in the public space. Is that NGOs, we think, oh, well, this is a nonprofit organization. They're just phenomenal.
Right.
Yeah. And then all they're doing is figuring out a way to fleece you of your money and doing jack squat of nothing so they could keep in business. I mean, thoughts on that topic?
Well, before you answer, Chris, I'm glad you came back around to that, Jenny, because you kind of almost gave them a pass earlier by saying, you know, do they not know? Where I would say, you know, and Chris, you know, may or may not agree. I mean, obviously this epidemic's getting worse, but in my opinion, Jenny, the people that are receiving all this money to supposedly help, they're just making the problem worse because they're receiving all that money. You know, they're like you just said, the money, it's like how when we had Kendra on and she was talking about how the government budgets work and how the accounting is completely different. And if they don't use and say we need even more money, then it all goes away. So in my opinion, they're the compounding, they're that multiplying piece that's making this homeless issue worse by just that total enablement across the board.
Well, and then I'm going to go even further because I'm interested in your take on this too. The whole idea that we're going to build these homes for people that have problems. Do you want to bet me that these nonprofit organizations are in bed with the people who are going to build the homes so that they can somehow benefit? And there's this little circle of benefit, and yet the problem is out of the circle. It's just the people making the money that are winning.
Yeah. You know, I think those are all great points. And here's the funny thing is, yes, I've been long been a critic of the whole nonprofit sector. And that's one thing, again, that gets me in trouble a lot of times. And where their motives are at, where they're doing it, you know, I guarantee you, I'm sure there are some, because that's just life. That's nature. That's human nature, right? So there's definitely going to be a lot of that, I believe. I will come back to one point. I will say this, though. I do think a lot of them think they're doing the right thing. And so maybe to you guys' point, maybe you get a lot of that in your upper management, right? Your executive level with insane salaries and things along this nature. There's a lot of the people in the boots of the ground and the middle management. They're the ones that, without God, their thinking is where it is, and they literally believe they're doing the right thing. They think I'm a bad guy, and they think they're truly helping. And for all that middle management and down, there's no money in it for them. Okay, I will say that. So what you're dealing with would be upper level, right? And that's just human nature. But to your point, I want to accelerate that, because this is what, regardless of what the motive is, here's what I want to bring out. There is absolute, utter, complete failure. And the money is insane. And because I've put this, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but that's okay. We'll just go there. So if you look at Tulsa alone, and you take that co-op and you just look, because I did this when I was doing my business plan to provide some solutions. And I just looked up about a half a dozen to a dozen of the top homeless nonprofits in this town, their tax returns, because that's all public knowledge. And it is amazing. And many of those, by the way, have been doing this for 3 decades.
Oh, sure.
And I'm like, failure. You know, well, let me side journey. You know, there's 3 sectors. You've got government, you've got nonprofits, and you've got the private sector. And out of those 3, 2 are complete failures all the time and waste a lot of money. And it's government and it's nonprofits. And it is disgusting and sick. Yeah. And the money they bring in, they're not run effectively. Okay, so let's go back to that. If you look at Tulsa alone, guys, we literally have about 70 to 100 million in annual revenue just with like your top 12 orgs that fight homelessness here. And if you took that whole group, this will blow your mind. That whole group, if someone is on the streets and they go to that co-op or any one of those individuals, and I can tell thousands of stories to back this up. This is not, and they even actually put this out there in their data. And someone says, hey, I'm ready to get off the streets. Guess how long it takes them to make that happen? Any ideas?
I want to know.
I know you know. I know you know. I'll tell you, it's 1 year currently.
Oh my goodness sakes.
1 year, guys. 1 year. What is your $16.2 million building good for if it takes you 1 year? I am one guy. I have one financial supporter, and I can take a person off the streets in 3 days with common sense. Right? Okay. So let's look at a couple of those factors since we're in that topic right now. I'll give you some examples, and it just.
Hey, do you want me to change the slide, by the way?
It doesn't matter. I do want to. Oh, there you can. Yes, there you go. That's where I was about to go. We'll come back to that child welfare piece in a minute, because I think it's very important to give some people some in-depth. But this is where I was going to go. You've got one of Tulsa's most beloved organizations back in 21, roughly, did a $16.2 million building capital campaign, raise it, no problem. And there it is in front of you. They shelter 75 people a night.
Can you tell us who this is?
This is the day center. This is the day center. Look at their building. It's beautiful. And people are going to hate me. I'm making enemies right now. But I'm not, like I said, there are some good people in there doing some.
Chris.
What's that?
Are you a Christian?
Yes, ma'am.
Don't you understand that people hate the truth?
They do.
Okay.
They do.
So it's all good. It's all good.
But
we're here for you, man.
That's right. So there's some good people over there doing some good things. But when I look at some of these, because some of these organizations are so horrible and need to be gutted and they're a problem. But, I'll give you another example before I go through the rest of those. 3-4 months ago, when the hotel It'll come to me in a minute. Right over on 51st and Yale. Studio Star. Sorry, I lost the name of it. It was basically the biggest drug house in town. Okay, you had anywhere from 300 to 400 people in there. Only 100 rooms, but it was what the streets call the biggest trap house in town. And we were doing church outside, right out in the parking lot. It was great. I mean, what's funny is people there loved us. They received. They were helping us. We were helping them. Okay, fast forward. It got shut down. The city's been wanting to shut that thing down for years. I understand. I mean, in the 3 months we were there was 2 shootings. Okay, like it's not a joke of a place, or was it? But the residents got a notice it was going to be shut down in 3 days. Okay, I started getting calls. This happened to be the day that I went to that annual meeting I told you about. Okay, I'm about to throw some real truth bombs for you so you can see firsthand experience. And I've had these experiences for 14 years. I'm going to give you a recent one. And let me back up and say this. In that hotel, although there were all of these people doing these bad things, there were also a lot of people that were not. There were seniors. You had major agencies placing. We had 2 ladies. I did videos on all of it. We had 2 ladies in their 70s that are not on drugs. That, guys, get this, had $3,000 a month in income coming in Social Security, and Family and Children's Services placed them in that flipping hotel. And I'm like, okay, I have to help them find a place. They got 3 days. They will literally be on the streets if I don't help them. Stopped everything we were doing, right? This was the emergency. There were a lot of seniors in there that were being taken advantage of that have 4 people living in their room, living off of their Social Security check. Like literally, okay? And plenty of bad guys. So I start getting the calls on a Tuesday. I'm at the meeting. I'm trying to verify if this is real, because when I start getting calls like this from these individuals, you have to take everything with a grain of salt and verify it. It's like, what do you mean you were told you got to go in 2 days? Come on. Okay. It ended up being true. I had a meeting. So we're literally looking at about 400 people being displaced in 3 days. Now, mind you, also, even though a lot of them are doing the bad stuff, you would be surprised how many of them had been there for 2, 3, or 4 years. And so ask me this, even if they're the problem, would you rather be in that room, or would you rather be on the street? Like, what makes more sense as a city, especially when your job is to stop homelessness and keep people housed? Okay, so it was a God thing. I was at that meeting. I actually had left before saying anything. I went back. I happened to be sitting next to one of the head directors for Day Centers Outreach, and he had just got done telling me how cool it was that they got all kinds of great grant money from Quick Trip, and they now have, get this number, blow your mind, 60 outreach workers, okay, that go on the streets and get paid to do exactly what I do. I'm like, well, glory to God, that's awesome, that's cool, okay. But when I called them and let them know what was happening, do you want to know the response I got? Well, I'll just tell you this. Nobody showed up. I was the only organization there. Nobody showed up. Not only did I go to the Day Center, I went to city. I went to city leadership. I went to Emily Hall. I emailed the mayor's office. I don't know him. I said, hey, this is about to happen. And I knew they didn't know. The owners of the hotel were lying, saying the city was shutting them down, but I knew that wasn't accurate. So I contacted the city. The city didn't know. Yes, the city was having inspectors out there and they wanted to, but no, they didn't pull that trigger. The owners did because they couldn't keep it going. They were having so much problems. So the city calls me at first and they're kind of like, well, what's going on? How many do you really think? And I'm like, look, we're talking about hundreds of people. So they deferred to who else but Housing Solutions. This is Housing Solutions' job. This is what this organization was created for. I had a conversation with him that day, the executive director, Mark Jackson, which I don't know him personally at all. He seemed like a nice guy. I can show you emails and I can show you text. His response was, we are going to wait until Friday to see who's actually on the streets, and then we'll come over and help. And I said, I had to say to myself, like, how stupid are you? Like, what are you serious? This is what, so, and the city, when I emailed her back, Emily Hall, she said, we're going to defer to Housing Solutions. When I had tried to go around and, you know, the person I had used to get a email to try to contact the city, the ex-counselor, Grant Miller, he read me the response that he got and is like, oh, well, we don't really think there's going to be very many people displaced over there. There's no, 200 to 400 people, this and that. And I'm sitting there telling them, like, I'm out here every week. I know there's only 100 rooms, but there's 4+ people in each room. Like, why would I make this up? Right? I have no reason to lie about this. So out of the top 3 organizations, Day Center, Housing Solutions, it's their job, and just the city of Tulsa, they didn't show up any day. They didn't show up Friday. They didn't show up Saturday. They didn't show up Sunday when it was closed down. They weren't helping the family, who, again, is part of the problem. But I had a family with 4 severe disabilities, mental disability adults, special needs. Sorry, I lost my word. Special need adults, right? On the family. You can see videos on my TikTok or pages and stuff like this, because I was trying to get help, because I was literally out there all by myself. I had the news come out. I was like, why are you the only organization here? I said, exactly. You tell me. Because I let them all know. And they didn't show up. What do you, I mean,
so can I ask you this question? How is the Day Center and how are Housing Solutions funded?
Oh man, that's a great question.
I can tell you real quick, Gene. I just looked up Housing Solutions. They're a 501c3. They themselves, they receive $4 million a year in federal, state, county, and city funds to provide housing.
Yep, exactly. So they're a nonprofit.
I didn't look at the other one yet.
They're a nonprofit, but they're also the city's baby, right? They're an organization, so they're first in line for government money, for state and city money. They are who the city defers to. That is our lead organization in. So they're this mix. They're this hybrid of a government organization and nonprofit.
Yeah,
and that is, if you look them up, that is absolutely their job and responsibility. That is what they were created for. And I can show you text, I can show you emails. They said, we're not going to show up until Friday to see who's homeless. And they never did.
Yeah.
Well, because I would rather kick them out than find them a place beforehand.
Yeah.
But I have millions of dollars to do the other.
Yep.
Well, on their website real quick, Chris and Jenny, it says Housing Solutions is the lead agency for Tulsa County HUD-funded continuum of care.
There you go. Everything I just told you. And guys, if you want to see, the mindset of what I've told you, where they go against drugs and say housing and all of this, just go deep dive into their website. It's all there. Like they're not ashamed of it. They don't hide their philosophy and mentality. Okay. You can find everything. I remember I came across their website 10 years ago or something. I was like, I'm not having nothing to do with these guys. That's a joke. Right. But look at some of the other ones. Here's some other ones. And so you have some good people doing some things, but nobody is coming from a big picture perspective. Like take the $13 million tiny home community that's being built out north. Okay. Good people that want to do good, wrong mentality. But $13 million and we're going to house 75 people one time and then we're done. Yeah. And to your point of the nonprofit complex, and then we have another huge nonprofit to support, and that didn't even put a dent in our homeless problem, nor did it address the issue of the storm that is so big people can't imagine that's coming because of the core factors. We've got another one on the west side, Eden Village. This guy, he's done a good job in the sense that he actually raised money, got stuff done quicker than anything I've seen, came out of the business world. But again, what are our solutions? $6 million to house 63 people one time. And you have another major organization.
Well, let me ask you this, because this is very interesting to me with that slide up there. Yeah. So we were told years ago that if you're mentally ill, we shouldn't keep you away from society because that's preventing you from getting better. You should be forced into society, and somehow that's going to retrograde your mental illness. Yeah. And obviously that's not the case. I mean, mental illness, there is a whole spectrum of it. I'm not a person that can speak on that. I don't have a background in that, but I've done enough reading to realize mental illness is a spectrum, and there are all kinds of things that cause it, but so much of it is organic. So if you have some form of organic brain disease, like schizophrenia, for example, you should not be on the streets. Yeah. You shouldn't. You need to be in a place where you can be given your medication, you can be cared for. But we'd rather have these instead of spending a chunk of money to put a nice mental health facility together, we don't want to do that. We want to do this tiny home stuff because somehow it's going to help them to put them in a bed and give them a place where they can do their drugs that aren't helping their mental illness, instead of putting them in a place where they could actually be getting help for their mental illness. Please explain this to me.
Yeah. So great point. So let's bring some clarity on that. With every person out there, right? Every person is suffering at some level of mental illness, bottom line. Okay. Here's what I would say, and these are just my numbers of observation, right? I don't have stats, and I don't think anybody does on this, but I would say 75% of those suffering from some mental illness, if you get them off the drugs, the mental illness can heal, because the drugs is a cause of a lot of the mental illness. And
no, I would agree with that as well. Yeah.
75%, you get them off the drugs. Again, that's why that has to be the number one issue. Let me side journey, because you also can't deal with the trauma, the abuse, the heal. You can't deal with anything until you get drugs out the way. Okay. Yeah. There are, and again, I don't know what the real number, anywhere from 15 to 25%. I've said this for years, to your point, that if you get them off the drugs, they still have severe mental illness like the schizophrenia. Yeah. And they are going to have someone in their life for the rest of their life. And I agree with you. We need somebody smart enough to come up with a plan that is almost a forced housing, but yet with some freedom, so we can, because I want to say this again, people think I'm being mean sometimes. They don't understand how inhumane it is. They have not seen the things I see. I challenge anybody who thinks I'm lying or just being mean, come with me to the streets on Saturday, and I will show you what schizophrenia looks like. I will show you what being tweaking and meth out your mind, and the things that these people, the depravity that they are in. And if you and then I'll tell you, this is why I say jail saves lives for those that aren't the full-blown schizophrenic. And it is inhumane for us to do nothing as a society and leave these people in this condition. The rape, the beatings, the stabbing, the prostitution, it would just break your heart. It will absolutely break your heart to see these things, because there's the other thing that Housing Solutions and all of these people lie about. They're just like, oh yeah, these are just people that fell on hard times and, nice and friendly and all of this. And I'm just like, bull crap. That is such a lie.
I want to show this, because earlier when we were talking, I just didn't get this one up because I wanted to hear what you had to say.
Sure.
Bingo, Jenny. Love didn't get me off the streets. And I'm so sorry you were on the street, Earl's daughter. That makes me so sad, but I'm glad you're not. So praise the Lord. It was someone believing that I could succeed. It took a lot of shame, accountability, and stern guidance. But today we don't want any of that thing, because somehow in our upside down back ass world, we believe that it hurts you more to say you need to get off your drugs, you're a problem, than it is to let you do your drugs. How does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, that and her point is that right there is such a great point, because here's what the thing is. We've got, again, without God, so we have such a warped version of love and Christianity, right? Because love will be stern at times. So they did receive love, right? Just the right love. It's not the Democrats' love. It's not even a lot of conservative Republicans' love these days, unfortunately. No, love at the right time and in the right way will tell you you are the problem and you are wrong. And here's what you do to solve it. And I'm right here. I'll hold your hand. I will walk with you and help you. But 100% love. That's why I say jail saves lives. I could give you thousands of people that will testify to that fact and say that jail saved my life. And again, people think that's the meanest thing ever. No, you literally just saved the next 30 years of their life, right? I'll give you this example. There was a lady that we've encountered for the last 5 years going out to Admiral. Admiral's a real hard area. Yeah. And this is one of those ladies that's walking around, like the living dead, out of her mind. She's screaming at the sky every single time we see her. She is in a fit of rage. She's swinging her fists and cussing and talking to people that are not there. Like, it will break your heart. I wish at times I had body cameras and photos of stuff, to see her basically in an area where garbage cans are that's turned into what looks like a dump. And this is right behind Arby's. And there's a sofa, and she's just passed out there for anybody to do anything they want to her. And it took my team probably 6 months to a year for her to even walk up to us, take food and leave. Right. And
like a feral cat. That's so horrifying.
Yes. And you have to be real careful when you're dealing with people like that, because you don't know when they're going to turn on you.
Yeah.
And she never did. So, but we were always watched. And so it got to after a year or two, she would come take food. We were never ever able to have a real conversation with her. Couldn't talk to her, couldn't pray with her, nothing. And these people just get etched in your mind. We hadn't seen her in about 7 to 8 months, and I noticed that. And all of a sudden I get a call from one of the hotel managers over there where we go minister at a lot, and she works with us trying to help us get people off the streets. She said, "Chris, you'll never believe who I'm standing here with." And she told me the name. And there's this woman had used 6 different names. I was like, I don't know who that is, but I just happened to be close by, and I said, "Okay, I'm coming over." And she said, "Well, when I got to her, why hadn't I heard from her?" Because she had been in jail for 7 months. But here's what I want to tell you. That was the first time in 5 to 6 years that we had been working with her that I was able to have a real conversation with her. I actually saw the real person.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm going to cry, mainly because I'm in pain, but also because that's sad.
It'll change you. It will change you. And so when I say jail saves lives, I'm telling you. Now,
so what happened though? I want to know. Were you able to really help her? Please give me a good story.
Yes, 100%. Yes and no. And here's why, because I'm always going to be truthful. So that night, I was able to take her. Yes, we got her off the streets that night. We took her to a program. She got in it that night, and it didn't last long. But here's why, and I understand why. Because unfortunately, the program I had to take her to, because most of these programs, if I call them, they're like, "Okay, we can set an appointment in 30 days, or it takes a year, etc." But the program that I worked with a lot, just happened to be, unfortunately, 2 miles down the road of where she was walking for the last 5 to 7 years and doing all her drugs. And what she needed, so we got her over there, but it didn't last more than a week. And the reason being and I talked to her about this over at Be Heard Movement when I ran into her, and she had gotten back on and been around some other people. I said, "Honey, what we need to do is I need to get you out of this city or even this state, and I need to take you to an inpatient." What was not available for me instantly was an inpatient program that I could take her to for 90 days where she can't go out. Well, I mean, she could leave on her own, but like, you don't go out. You're in therapy every day. You're in counseling. You're in group meetings. And next time, I pray there's a next time, we're going to do whatever has to happen to make. But that's what she needed instead of just 2 miles down the road, because it was in too close of proximity.
Yeah.
But that's how touch and go and how difficult it is in dealing with some of these difficult cases. And even the not so difficult cases, you cannot keep them in the area that is familiar to them. You've got to get them out of the area that they know, because it's going to trigger them so easy, right?
Oh, that makes perfect sense. I mean, truly. I mean, it's kind of like being an alcoholic. You don't go take your buddy who's an alcoholic to the bar.
Yep. You don't work next to the liquor store. You just don't do it.
I mean, come
on.
So
to your point originally with the mental illness in these communities. So let me say this. These communities, they're all different. Like the tiny home communities, they are trying, well, one of them in particular has requirements. The others say she's going to have requirements, but I doubt that's going to work out that way. They're trying to deal with people that are not that severe. The shelter they were trying to build another shelter, which I think is a bad idea. That was going to be for the most severe cases. And basically they had such rigid stipulations of how you had to handle them as an organization that nobody wanted it. Even the far-leaning left liberals that run these big nonprofits said, "Dude, that's because they wanted us to take those most difficult situations and have them housed in 90 days. And anyway, it was just didn't make an ounce of sense.
So basically, it seems like there's a two-sided problem here. One is either too far this way or that way.
Correct. 100%.
How sad.
So again, come back to jail saves lives. You have to have accountability, responsibility, but you also have to have just a logical, workable system, which let me say this, guys, it is out there. Okay. There are methods proven to work. It just takes some common sense. So I put together a plan. God had me working on a plan, and it wasn't anything I came up with. He showed me different plans. Well, first of all, I've done it for 14 years. So let me say this. How can I take a person off the streets sometimes in one day, or an average 3, or on the max 2 to 3 weeks, max 2 to 3 weeks. And I'll give one little caveat, because, all transparency, the only cases I have take me 2 or 3 months are a sex offender, and that's a whole different ballgame.
Wow, yeah, I can imagine.
But everybody else is 2 to 3 weeks max. Okay. How do I do that? Real simple. It's not rocket science. Faith-based sober living programs.
Oh, yes.
So these are 100%. It works.
Yes.
And I do it every week. I've got programs that I've taken 50 to 100 people a year. Some people ask, and I don't tell them all, but how do you do that? They're like, they've been working with that person for 6 months. Well, come on, 6 months? You want 12 appointments with them to try to get them off the streets? No, you have to strike while the iron's hot. If they say I'm ready to go, you got to make it happen. So here's what's interesting, guys.
Yeah.
The least funded programs, okay, faith-based sober living programs like Wings of Freedom, like LifeGate, like Hope is Alive, and there's dozens of them, right? They're the least funded, obviously, because they're not getting state and federal money and all of that. But
wait, why?
There's a lot. Let's come back to that. There's a lot of reasons, but yes. But they also have the least red tape, right, to get someone in. Their heart is far greater. They realize that the person is the problem, so they require responsibility and common sense. They're the least funded and yet the most effective. Okay, and so what we have proven systems that work. Let me give you an example of one that has worked, but it's run terribly. I mean, it partially works, like an Oxford House. It's not faith-based. It's a sober living house. It has no middle management, but this thing is nationwide. So, and then you put the faith-based in there and you put the management in there, and we can point to dozens of systems. These things have been around for decades that work better than anything else. And so when I'm dealing with someone, we go to one of two places, depending on a lot of factors and the need. It's ideal if you can start with, let's get into a 90-day inpatient and get you over the hump. Where when you're going through withdrawals, when you're going through those cravings, you don't have any options. You're not going anywhere, right? Then let's walk you into a year to get this 3-year-long faith-based sober living program. Now, having said that, no programs are designed to be 3 years, but all of them that I work with will let someone stay 3 years. And then when I say 3 years, I don't mean you have to live in the program, but you need people and community in your life walking with you for 3 years to bring you to a point of full maturity so that you're never going to fall again. That's the number I found for men and women coming out of prison, is once they've hit that 3 to 5 year mark of doing good, they've had time to fail multiple times and get up again. They've had time to relapse and get up again and decide, no, I still want this way. I'm still going the right way. When I get to that 3 to 5 year mark, that's when I say there's no looking back. Those people are where they need to be.
But you know what? That makes, I'm just you saying it makes a lot of sense. I mean,
yeah, it really does. It's common sense. Yeah. Let me give you the other program too. So, because you have that right there, but then how do you deal with the homeless, right? That there's such a big crowd and they take a little bit more to work with, and you just can't put some of them right into certain systems and places and things in society. Like you mentioned earlier, it takes a little bit more time because them, guys, honestly, they're about a 7 to 10 year course. Okay. Ooh, yeah. People don't realize how, yeah. I mean, and again, that's a gradual thing, but if you want them to make it of community walking with them, because I can't stress enough, most of them are so far gone mentally and emotionally. You just don't understand what we're dealing with. Okay. Now, let me say this. So I started looking up. Well, the Lord led me to some transitional tiny home villages that are being done, get this, of all places, in California. There's something good that comes out of California. Well, it is a nonprofit. It's a faith-based nonprofit. And guys, again, so if we can bring a efficiency and an effectiveness or results-oriented mindset into the nonprofit world, right? If you don't get results, if you fail, then we scratch it. We start over. Also, we want to minimize costs and maximize results. We don't want to spend 20 million on buildings because buildings aren't the problem. So as a business owner, I want to spend the absolute least amount I can to house this individual, but yet help them, right? Again, this is all common sense. It should be. So I found a tiny home village, a place that builds transitional communities for about, get this guys, 80% of the cost compared to any of these other traditional tiny homes that are being built.
Really?
And they can build whole communities in a matter of a couple of months.
Wow.
Why? Because they're temporary. They're not made to be permanent, right? Which is what we want. So FEMA's using them. They're small, but they're beautiful communities. And you can come in. So in other words, because I've told people this, like, look, if you, and I did the numbers before, you give me 13 million, I could build 1,500 of these homes. Now, I'd never do this. It would be a mess and that many people don't want help, but you could build 1,500 homes and house all of Tulsa's homeless theoretically, right? It'd be a nightmare. You wouldn't do it. By the way, all you need is about 300 for the proper system. All you need is about 300 in this town. And that's a lot. That's
300 tiny homes?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Because you're using them as a funnel to take them to the next. See, that's phase one.
Right. Yeah.
I don't want to put someone in a tiny home and leave them there. I want them there and it's going to vary from person to person, whether it's 3 months or a year. And then I want to move them into phase two, which we talked about before, which is the sober living home where you live with 8 to 12 other people and we start to work you back into society.
Yeah,
And
that just always seemed, and I want to put this up just really fast. Gracie said years ago, Tulsa had one that did 28 days. They taught cognitive thinking, accountability, and then to a halfway house to get them back on their feet. It worked to an extent, but 28 days is never enough time to reverse the mindset.
Exactly. Amen.
Yeah.
That's it. That's why I say you start with even 90 days, but then it is imperative that they are in a good program for a year. And so what happens is, unfortunately, again, the secular, the non-faith-based, they won't even accept spirituality, God, et cetera. So they come from this full, yes, inpatient, and then maybe we put you in an Oxford house, and it rarely works. Okay. So there's a plan out there. Oh, let me tell you this. The nonprofit in California, guys, get this. And I, by the way, I took this to Bynum in his office. They didn't want to even talk to me. I just showed them what another nonprofit did. I said, here, it can be yours. You can have it. You can go do it. They created 900 and some beds in a matter of 1 year. They built 6 tiny home communities. And again, at a cost of about 80% compared to what anybody else is. And they've done this successfully in 120 cities across the United States, not just California. So we know if we have the right plan, it can be done. But again, when you want to make that first tiny home village the end phase, the end all, that's not the solution. That needs to be the cheapest, most effective and efficient way to walk them off the street. So you take a plan. I've outlined this plenty of times. Perfect slide. You take a plan like Governor Stitt had. It's part of it. That is part of plan. What needs to be in there. It just wasn't executed right. But
that's shocking.
Yeah, right. Was it a political stunt or what? Right. Okay.
It was a political stunt.
But I tell you this, it had good effects in the sense that it did need to be done. Right now.
Okay.
So 3 plans to end homelessness. 1, a plan to deal with those that are homeless now and want the help. That's a small percentage, guys. I mean, again, I believe, and this can sound arrogant or whatever, but I believe we're one of the most effective going out there to find those people because we do provide hope. We don't just go offer them needles and have a conversation. We literally take God out there. We love on them. But even with that, the numbers are so small. The numbers are so small of the percentage that say, hey, we're ready to go. So wow. I would say, 10% at best. 10% at best.
Oh my gosh, Chris, really?
Yeah. 100%. If you walked up to 100 people on the streets, got to know them, had an engaging conversation, talked to them, met their needs, did some things for them and said, hey, if I can walk you off the streets today, because I can, and I've done this, are you ready to go? And 8, 9 out of 10 are going to say no. We're going to play. Why? Okay, again, it comes back to people need to understand the extent of addiction and mental illness that they are really trapped in. They cannot see a way out. They cannot do it. And so jail saves lives. I hate to say it, but literally you have to have a Governor Stitt's plan. I've literally said that for years. I've outlined plans and said, no, you do need to come in with the police and let them enforce the laws and say, hey, we built this great community. We have rehabs. We will take you today. But FYI, you're not going to keep causing fires in businesses. You're not going to keep using the bathroom on people's businesses. You're not going to keep breaking windows and stealing. You're not going to keep assaulting people. You're not going to keep doing all the bad things you do to people. And so if you don't take this help, you will go to jail for breaking laws. That's not a bad thing. That's accountability and responsibility, right? Because a lot of these people are breaking a lot of laws and causing harm, not only to other people, but to themselves.
Yes.
So you need a plan like Governor Stitt's in, and you. Let me say this, and I'm not running for mayor. I wish I could, and I wish I could even be elected. If I had the thought that I would even have a prayer's chance, I probably would go for it. But it should take a mayor that knows what he's doing, business management 101. It should take 1.5 years to get everybody on the streets removed, maybe even a year, 1.5 years max, if you implement the right strategy. And I tell you. And to that point, we'd only need 300 tiny homes. You could get rid of half of these multi-million-dollar nonprofit organizations in town and stop wasting money and use half of them. And you build a community, and then you go build up the sober living, faith-based community, and you fund them, the ones that are actually working, who will take someone off the streets in 3 days, not a year, and actually will provide accountability and responsibility and hold them accountable, say, no, you're not doing drugs in here. Because you have a lot of these programs, you have like a mental health association who actually builds apartments for these people. And some people need to be in there. But here's the thing, it's the wild, wild west. They'll tell them what you do in your room is your business. So you got a person that you're trying to help sitting right next to the dope dealer. And it's a crazy, I have people that are placed in there, and they call me at times and tell me, he's like, Chris, he said, most of these people don't even stay here for 2 or 3 or 4 weeks at a time. They just come back to take a shower. Right? So there are plans out there that work if we had the right people putting them together. Now, that's only to take care of what's here currently. Then you have to tackle the broader issues that we talked about for the state to deal with it long term. And I'm going to tell you, this is the warning. The storm is not brewing. It's here, and it's only going to get worse. Okay, and let me say this. Can we go to the child welfare slide real quick? Because
okay, sure.
Here's the thing that we didn't get to, and that's okay. But we need to talk about not only the drug epidemic that we did, guys. Okay, here's the perfect storm that's been brewing and why I want to sound an alarm. This thing is only going to continue to get 10 times worse because we're not dealing with these root causes. Let's look at some of the facts for our child welfare. What do I mean when I say poor child welfare? Well, it's right there up on the screen. Oklahoma is some of the worst in all categories for overall child welfare. What is that? Physical, sexual, emotional abuse, right? Trauma. There's your trauma. There's your mental illness. There's where it starts. We're the worst. Think about this, guys. Look at all of the DHS nonsense going on. Look at all of the news. Look at the Gabe Woolies. Look at and we could list thousands of stories. Sexual abuse. We're one of the worst. How I can't fathom that. How does a person not turn to drugs to deal with that type of abuse? How does a person not turn to drugs when you live in extreme poverty? We have people, I can take you to places in town that look like third world countries all across Oklahoma that you and I would not, we don't even want to step foot in. We would want to put on a hazmat suit to walk into, and you got babies living in it. Okay, extreme poverty. What about education? Right? Come on, we're down to 50th in the flipping United States. How does anybody pull themselves out of this type of life when this is how we're raising them? What about hunger? I mean, help me out here. Do you see what I'm saying? And so unless we tackle broader issues, and nobody in authority, nobody in leadership is talking about this as being a part of the cause for homelessness, and nobody is talking, the only thing they talk about is flipping affordable housing and evictions. And don't get me wrong, every city needs a strategic plan for affordable housing, but that has nothing to do with the people on the streets. So I'm going to stop right there. what are your thoughts on that? Give me some feedback on that.
Well, let me read to you a couple, because we've had some really good comments come in.
Yeah.
On Rumble, a lady said, have you looked into Legal Aid Services of Oklahoma, a nonprofit profiting from the homeless issue? Lasso has a right to counsel pilot program in Tulsa and OKC fighting evictions. So there's that. Julia did, years ago that they had a homeless ministry, and she said the 10% is accurate. Chris, we got 2 out of 10 to 15 off the streets. One of them laughed at people who bought houses.
Yes. Yes.
We talked about that. Lisa cracks me up. Get some Amish in there to raise a few barns in a few days for a whole lot less than 60 million. The intended residents can work to help finish them. Boom, problem solved.
Yes, I love it. Right?
But I mean,
sensible.
But see, Chris, I guess this is what I want to end our conversation on today, because I have to tell you, you have been, I want to hug you so much. And I wish we had an actual, sit down podcast sometimes, but it is extraordinarily clear to me. I mean, like extraordinarily clear to me that you know exactly what's going on, exactly what would solve the problems. You've done more good than anybody else has done. Government sucks.
Amen. Yep.
And it sucks your dollars in, whether you want them to or not. And if you don't give them to them, they will put you in jail or take your property or whatever they feel like they need to do to get these dollars, which then they'll turn around and do whatever they want with. And the beauty about government is that at this point, they're just meant to suck. Right. And so they have learned how to keep the sucking behind the curtain by giving you platitudes. Well, we have this, look at what we've done. Yeah. We've done so much, and it's just good. And they give each other awards. Katie Smith from Visit will tell us that all the time. They give each other the awards so that it looks like they're doing great in the public eye, but they're not really. They're just trying to message something. The bottom line here, Chris, is we know that government sucks. I mean, the people who watch this podcast watch because we all know government sucks.
Right.
How, and the worst part is now you've got public-private in their little interlocking in their interlocking puzzle piece, where the public part is already screwed. And then the private piece, which is supposed to be the one that people are donating money to, is supposed to be, they get all together and then they all just become suckier than any Hoover. Yeah. I mean, well said. So it's not like you can look out the window anymore and go, oh, that nonprofit is doing so great. There are so few that actually are anymore. So many of them are nonprofit so that they can get some kind of federal money or some kind of state money. But then what are we actually seeing them do with that money? And a nonprofit is absolutely the worst because they're a 501, whatever it is. And even though you're supposed to be able to see who donates to those, if you're C5, for example, or I think there's some other ones that they've come up with now, you don't even have to see who's donating. Yeah. I mean, Chris, I don't know how to help you help us. And what do we do?
Yeah, I understand the frustration right there. And here's the biggest plea for me that everybody.
Wait, before you start.
Go ahead. That's great. I don't know Lisa, but I like her already.
Oh, Lisa's the best. Anyway, go ahead. That's so true. Go ahead.
The biggest thing, and it just, and I know everybody's heard this, but and you guys are going to know this as well, is to get involved. Okay. And I'm going to talk about from a political level, because as a faith-based man, as a guy who's been a pastor for years, and people, again, I've lost so many people. They tell me to tone down my rhetoric and stop talking about politics. I've had people tell me, Chris, we love you so much, and man, we would have just been at your church if you just didn't talk about politics so much. And I won't use the language I would use to them. Well, here's what you can do with that, but because it's not going to happen. But you would be amazed at how much kickback I get from the Christian community who don't want and to be involved. And let me say this: here's all I'm talking about. I'm not talking about running for office. I'm not talking about being a city councilor. I just want you to go vote. Can we start there? One point in case. Remember Bynum's $800 million thing that we had to vote on in the last year or two?
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yes, yes.
Okay. Do you know 20% of registered voters showed up to vote? 20%. It was 800 million, which 60 or 80 million went to the Tulsa Performing Arts Center because that's important. Okay. So if we can get people to get involved and even just started, because if conservatives would just start getting involved voting, Donald Trump, I mean, when he 16 years ago, whatever, like him or hate him and, agree with some and different things, but he recognized what he's good at doing is stepping back and looking at things from a big picture because he wasn't in the Christian world. He wasn't in politics, so to speak, et cetera. And so he was coming from this mindset. I can see common sense on some things that you guys can't. And he literally said to Christians, he said, dear God, if you guys would get together and get unified and do something, he said, you would literally rule the country. He didn't use those words. He said, nobody would be able to stop you. Yeah. And that's literally all I'm talking about. We just have to vote, right? So that is the biggest thing. Get involved. And I think right now, I know you had asked what would be the ask to help people. And I was thinking about that for a day or so. And this may seem a little bit selfish on my part, but I would like any help from anyone out there, any of your viewers. I want to go to the federal level and talk to people. And again, I know a lot of them, just like we talk about, government sucks. So, because I've talked to some of Stitt's people. And one day,
well, that's a useless proposition.
One day it was hot, and the next day I was not. And I was like, okay, interesting, but whatever. But I have had it in my heart, and in all of those conversations when I was talking to them and different people, I just kept hearing the Lord lead me to go to the federal level. And I get it. What we're talking about, whatever the number is, 90% of them are going to, just be like everybody else. But it is in my heart because this is a labor of love for me in the sense of it is what God's called me to do. I have been there 14 years. We need the right people informing folks on making policy. I would love to be involved, just even to be heard, to tell people.
Well, have you talked to Kevin Hearn at all?
No.
Yeah, I mean, get in with Kevin Hearn. I don't know if I still have his field representative's number. I'll see if I do still have it and give it to you. Yeah. But I would go with, I think Kevin Hearn and then Josh Brakeen. And I can set you up with Josh. And I think you would find a lot of sympathy, empathy, whatever you want to call it, with Josh Brakeen, who is a Christian man who, I do believe could see something about that. But I just to go back to where you are, Michael and I and pretty much all the people who watch our show regularly, we're very locally minded. I have a couple of hand gestures that I use to the federal government because I just don't care anymore.
Right. I understand.
Because basically all of everything that we're having problems with are under our feet.
Correct.
Starting from our city council to our school boards to everything else. These are places that we abdicated space from years ago, thinking we didn't really need to worry about that. Everything was good. And so my personal perspective and the perspective of so many of us is if we don't go back, I think the feds there's an F term that goes with feds. And so I don't think that they're helpful at all. I think at this point in time, that's the federal government's just going to implode. We're not, trillions of dollars. We don't even need to go there. Right. But if we can build stable, and I hate to use the word communities because I just hate it. It's Marxist in origin. But if we can build stable neighborhoods and groups of people that can withstand whatever the federal government does to us with our own money, then I think that's where we need to be, because that's where the end result will lie, is with individuals in our own neighborhoods doing what we can. So
no, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. I mean, these people are obnoxious and noxious both. Let me
say this to that real quick, Jenny.
Okay.
I agree with you 100%. It's foundational levels, and that's to the get involved. And so I'll throw this in there. People need to be heard, because remember the statement I said earlier, Republicans do nothing, Democrats do the wrong thing. Republicans are being too quiet. To your point, they don't say nothing. They don't stand up. And that's how we've lost Tulsa. We've lost Tulsa because we weren't involved. I mean, if you look at our conservative and spiritual background, and we have been being run by far-leaning left, straight out of California, literally liberals, for many years now. And so I'm 100% with you. We have to get involved to turn around at a local level. We have to say no in our schools. We have to say no to the city council. And I get you. My thing is I feel I'm being led to find someone at a federal level that will try to help me come down. But I 100% agree to your point. And I want to tell people, get involved, let your story be heard, because right now the only one that's being heard is the side that disagrees with you. And whoever is heard the most is going to win. So to your point.
Let me throw in a couple more things here. One of our victories, Julia said, was an artist. We bought him paint and a brush and a few instructions, and he painted curb numbers and pictures all over OKC. First he walked, then he got a bike, then he got a clunker. So, small steps. There was a nonprofit in Pryor not long ago. They started out doing amazing work, but the people that ran it are now being charged with embezzlement. Very sad, because they were really doing a good work of finding and funding long-term facilities for addicts.
Yep. To your point, Jenny, right there. Yeah. And I know
but hold on. But Chris, back to your point, the problem is here. We have pushed God out of this spot.
Yep.
I mean,
100%. We're without God. And Christians are so bashful and shy. They don't understand. We've taken spirituality completely out of practicality. Not only has secularism taken God out of science, but isn't this interesting, right? So as a Christian, you supposedly believe in creation. So you believe that the spiritual created the natural. And somehow you don't believe that God's in science. And I say that, like, really, come on, think about that, right? Because the spiritual world over here, they have done separation of church and state, like I say, as the allegory, or the spiritual and the natural, as much as the secular world. Yeah. And so there's absolutely not an ounce of practicality with our spirituality, and people have to bring those two back together. To your point, you with the heart of man, people are so bashful as far as bringing the spirituality to everything we do. They've accepted the separation of the two, is what I was trying to say. And it's like, you can't, here's how these programs are effective, is because we heal the heart of man. We deal with the center, the heart of the person.
Well, and I think that back to your point, we've taken Christ out of Christianity. We've taken Christ out of the church. I mean, we can sing all these great songs and, we can feel so great as we're singing these great spiritual songs. But that doesn't mean anything. If you're not in the Bible, if you're not reading what Jesus said, if you're not reading what the context of the life of God in our lives is, then you don't know anything. And how, if you're feeling all your religion, you're wrong. You're not, you're completely out of it. You're thinking the wrong way. And we can't get people to think the right way anymore, because then they would actually have to read their Bible. And that's just, I don't have time for that kind of stuff. Really, hold on. I've got this YouTube thing with this dog I got to watch. It's the most obnoxious garbage, but we're kind of trained
100%.
In that area. All the way back to, remember, it was the 70s that started this, that Jesus is a socialist notion.
Oh, wow.
Where Jesus just loves everybody,
Yeah,
and Jesus is just all right with me, and he loves everybody, and so he wants and now we've got the gospel that basically says if you pray enough you'll get stuff because Jesus wants to get you stuff. No, he doesn't. Jesus wants to put you in hard situations to perfect your heart. That's what Jesus wants.
Yeah.
But the problem is you can't tell people because they're like, but Jesus loves me. And I'm like, guess what? Sometimes love is being chased around your living room with a wooden spoon.
No. Listen, you're speaking to my heart because, again, as a pastor, and I just was having a conversation the other day with this brother, and it's funny the word you use because I have seen, again, sit back and observe the church, and you ask yourself why are we not involved? Why is nobody doing anything? And I was that guy. Listen, everything I talk about, I learned about me first, and I had to come out of because I was born and raised in it. You know what I mean? I jokingly tell people, look, I had more Bible school than you're going to have your whole life by the time I was 15. Like, shut up and go home with your scripture and all your whatever. I was a zealot of zealot in them. I was the guy in my 3-piece suit, and I drove by the 14-year-old who just crashed a Cadillac on the side of the road because I had to make it to church. And fortunately, my wife at that time had enough common sense to say, Chris, we need to go see what just happened. I mean, I'm going to church. What are you talking about? I'm a Christian. That's what we do. So I say that with all love, but I came out of that, and I sit back and I look, and I use the exact words you did. People are going to church having emotional experiences, and they think it's spiritual. And it's a fine line between the two. And so they think they love God. And we have leaders, the spiritual leaders of this nation are not even spiritually mature men and women of God, literally. And so you have decades of being taught that this is loving God, where I walk into a service and listen to this. Everything in that service is about me, self-service to me. I get to feel good by worshiping God. Listen, I don't feel like it every time I flip and go pick up a homeless person or counsel them for 2 hours on the phone. It's not about whether I feel like it or not. But that service, everything is about me. I need to have anonymity so nobody knows me. Turn the lights out. I want a light show. You better take good care of my kids. And then get this one. Give me a word that's going to fill me up so I can make it for the week. What about that? And this is what I want to tell pastors and Christians is you owe God. You owe people and you owe God. We have turned Christianity into a one-way street relationship, and we all know what that is, right? I'll refuse some of that language where every relationship that's healthy is a two-way street. Yes, salvation is free, right? But a relationship is not. And if you're going to be true Christianity is you owe God, right? You just because he gives to you, you give back to him. That's natural. What kind of relationship would it be between any three of us where one person gives year after year after year after year, and the only one ever takes? What would we call those people? Think about that. And that's the Christianity we created. So that's the heart of God, what you just said, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, the heart is wicked, right? The heart is wicked. That is scriptural.
Okay,
the heart is wicked.
Last comment.
Do what? Oh, hang on. Let me throw
Grace's
some more
last
comments
comment.
in here because we're going to have to. Actually, Mullen might be able to help as well. He's been involved with it. Yeah, I wouldn't know. I'm going to sorry, Jules. I love you. But Jed Chappell with Oklahoma City Center would be a good connection. I don't know if you know him.
I don't.
You might write that down.
Yeah, I'll do that real quick.
I'll see if I can't get a connection. Change begins at your own front door. Bingo. Amen. Christians are not allowed to be shy. The Bible says, do not fear.
Yeah.
Repent. Yes. True science discloses God. I would agree with that, Gracie, 100%. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. In my vernacular, I would say I have not come to bring peace, but chase you around your living room with a wooden spoon. Yeah. Vending machine Christianity.
Hey, that's a good one. Haven't heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. So did I miss a comment you were trying to throw?
No, I like Gracie's vending machine Christianity. Well, Chris, what would you do? What could you, not would you do? What could you do even with just like a quarter of Housing Solutions budget? You know, what if you got $1 million? What could you do with that $1 million?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, easily $1 million, we could go several. You could go several ways, right? Because the plan I have together is there's 3 different phases. So we could start with just traditional housing and go purchase a number of traditional houses that we can fit 10 to 20 people in, and disciple them. Because you put them through at least a year-long discipleship program where they're in meetings and things every single night. You have the church surrounds them. That's the model that works, by the way. And we can prove that. I can point you to organizations that have done it. I didn't make that up. I just identified it. I saw it, said that works, that doesn't. And I want to say this. You said, well, if they're already there, guys, we could open 100 of those homes. If there's anything I hope I got through is how great the need is and how much we've got an epidemic coming even more. We could open 100 homes, fill them, and we still would not have saturated the market because the need is so great. So we could go the route of opening up those sober living homes. That's where I would probably start. We could actually, just for $1 million instead of 6 or 13, we could start a small 75 to 100 transitional tiny home community. So think about that. Instead of 6 to 13 million, I could take $1 million and we could build a whole community that would house 75 to 100 temporarily transitional, then to take them through to the next phase. That's how much more effective there are plans that are out there. None of those I designed myself. I've seen other people do it. So to answer your question, that's where I would start with. And I would probably personally at this point in time, and this is the way I feel the Lord leading me, I would start with the traditional homes because that is the bulk of the people that can be served. The transitional tiny home is going to be the most useful when you have some actual cooperation by city or government leadership and bigger picture. And you're going to put some different, and that's the smaller group that is really hard that you transition through there. Okay. The bulk I'm going to take into a sober living home. To answer your question.
What do you think about mental health facilities, putting more money into mental health facilities? Because really, honestly, Chris, jails should not. I was the mayor and we had 2 mentally ill people in our town for quite some time. Yeah. And all you could do, one of them was schizophrenic and just would not take his medication. And I could call the cops and they would come pick him up, but they would put him in a cell. But then they'd have to turn around and put him back out and his family wouldn't come pick him up. And so he'd just be right back out. I mean, there's got to be something better for the mentally ill people who must have medication in order to be societally adept.
Yes, I agree 100%. The only problem I have with that is the people doing it. Okay. I agree 100%, but we have to have the right people, because if you think any of these other nonprofits are money holes, oh, glory to God, that one will be 10, if not 100 times worse of a money hole. And the temptation and the ability for abuse, because when you're getting into the money for that and the insurance and the cost of that, and then you got such high level professionals, so you have to, I guess what I'm saying is, and let me say this, that's a smaller percentage, right? Something needs to be done, but we have to have the right supervision and balance struck of the people running that, and an organization and outside organizations watching it, so it doesn't become like everything else and you got 100 people locked up, and it wouldn't be 20 million a year. That place would get to 100 million, 500 million a year in a hurry, because the cost of those types of services. So that's the challenge. But I agree with you. I 100% agree with you.
Well, we've got to come up with this. Okay, so last thing, because we pretty much did 2 hours, Chris.
I know it went quick.
But it really does. I mean, when you're talking about an issue that is a complex issue, you can't do it in a 5-second soundbite on News 9. Yeah. Hey, Chris, what do you need from people watching from their cozy couches today? What do you need practically from us?
Amen. So real simple, 3 things. Like I said, at every level, that you feel led, get involved. Two, very specifically, if anybody, and I understand what you meant, everybody that watches you a lot is locally, but if my ask is, if you do have any federal connections, anybody, the more people I can talk to anywhere, that I want this to be heard. I want the city, the citizens' voice to be heard and to tell the truth. And honestly, which I hate to do this ask, but we do need financial support for people that go out there and actually make a difference.
Okay, well, Chris, you're going to have to give me, you're going to have to give me a place where people can go. Sure.
Because right now again, it's a labor of love. We do what we do. I don't take city money, federal money. Not that I'm 100% against it, but it's just not there. And the churches don't like what I do. So, they don't necessarily get behind me, so we're out there on our own. But I'm going to tell you this, we will always provide results. And if you want to see what your money can do, it's week after week, we can tell you stories. This is the guy, and we took off the streets in 3 days, and here he is a year later. If you
stop and tell me how to get, I want people to get to you. How?
Well, I am going to I have to get my website is down because I'm making some changes.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. I had a lot of changes that I need to make, and so I'm working on that currently right now.
Well, can you at least give me the website so people can put it in, write it down and go back to it later?
Yeah. It's going to be healinghousesok.org, and it's healinghousesok.org. Most of my communication is done right now on Facebook. And I mean, we do have.
Okay, where are you on Facebook? Where are you on Facebook? Healing Houses?
Yep. And Chris Stevens, they can look me up personally. I do most of my stuff. Stevens is with a PH. Okay. I do most of my stuff on Facebook. I have several pages on there. I have Healing Houses. I have New Life Church and Heart for the Homeless, several different, marketing names out there. We do have Venmo and Cash App and things like that set up for people, but I know I need to get it set up, or we have PayPal and things along that nature.
This is what Michael always says: don't ask for money and then don't take it.
Correct. let me give a follow-up to that. I really would like to get businesses or individuals who would do monthly support. Yeah. And what it takes to sponsor a guy or a gal to get them off of the streets. Because that's an average of, depending on the time, that's about a $500 to $1,000 cost. And so I want to get the community to say, hey, we're going to sponsor one guy a month, or even if it's $50, just monthly. So we have something coming in.
Yeah, that would be nice.
I will get you something better set up for that, because I'll be honest with you, I haven't done what I need to do to set that up as good as it could be to make it easy for people.
Well, but you know what? I'm going to say something here. Sometimes when you're doing stuff, because Michael will tell you, I'm horrible at this.
Yeah.
You do, because nobody's coming in doing it for you. You're having to do it, and you can't stop doing what you're doing to go back and do the other stuff. It just doesn't work.
That's it. Well, that's the thing. Raising money is a full-time job, literally.
It is.
And so, and honestly, I don't even like to ask. As a pastor for years, when we had a Sunday service, I would rarely take up an offering. And I found when God had me take up an offering, it was usually because I was going to give it to somebody in the audience. And so personally, I'm not going to lie, I don't like that ask. But I know I do need to get it set up where people can give and support monthly. That would be
and let me make a point to you, because I think Michael's made this point to me before. I know other people have. People want to help, but so many people don't know how to help.
Yep.
Which is why they would prefer to give some money. And then it makes them, then they feel like they have a buy-in and they're actually helping you do the thing that they don't know how to do themselves. So you have to always stop and look at it like that. It is, sometimes it's less for you and the ministry than it is for other people to, say, hey, Chris Stevens, I really like what you're doing. I agree and believe in this, and let me help you out.
Yeah,
correct.
And that's kind of the key. I was just getting ready to say that, Jenny, since you said that, but because Jenny does not like asking for money, and I mean, no one likes asking for money, but you're not asking for money. You're giving people the opportunity to help, and that's what they need. The people want to help, but if they don't know that you have all these avenues and Give, Send, Go, or this or that or whatever, just you're not asking for money. You're giving people an avenue to help you. That's just the mindset you have to have. Every single person that you talk to, say, hey, you can help me out $20. Just send me $20 over here. You'll help, not even help me out. You're going to help this. I'm going to get this guy off the street. Then that's just how you do it.
Right. No, you're right. To all of those points. Yeah. All very valid. And that's what we see, a lot. I see people, on side note, some of these organizations are so ineffective because they spend all their time raising money. Yeah. And I'm like, man, if you guys would spend that time helping people, you'd actually get something done.
Well, there are people that can volunteer who are good for fundraising and who are able to fundraise, and they would be willing to do that volunteer.
Yeah.
And so I think that's another thing. Maybe if you're good at that and you're watching, we have a huge audience this morning. If you're good at that and you think you can help Chris raise money, please reach out to Chris. I'm going to put this up one more time. You can find him on Facebook, Chris Stevens or Healing Houses. You can find him there. Reach out to him. Just say, hey, I think I might be able to help you with this, because that would be probably huge. Yeah. And I know there are a lot of people who can do that.
And on top of that, Chris, you're literally at ground zero doing this at a ground zero grassroots level. There's no better case study probably in the entire United States as to the effectiveness of how one single person can do this than what you're doing, the way you're doing it.
Yeah. 100%. The results, and thank you. Because, again, you hate saying stuff like this, but the results are proven. When one person can take someone off the streets faster than a multi-million-dollar organization, we have to rechannel our efforts and our focus. I thank you so much, because I would love someone that does do the marketing and raising the money and the fundraising to get involved. That would be huge, because I just don't have the time. I either have to stop helping somebody or I have to go raise money, right? And yes, I can do that, but again, you can't do both, for sure.
Well, and again, and I'm going to point this out too. Jesus gave us all different talents.
Right.
And if the church is supposed to work the way Jesus set the church up to work, it's all of us with our different talents combining together to work toward one goal. And so if you have these talents, please share them. Share them, because it's that's how we move the ball down the field. It's too hard for some of us to just have to do the work of 5 people, when we could really use the other 4 to jump in, alongside. Oh, there you go.
I'll tell you, with that, I'll tell you couple of things. I sent you my cell phone and our church Venmo. And honestly, you can put my cell phone out there. I really don't care.
I'm not going to, because bots. So that's not going to happen, but I can do this, and I will do this.
Can you copy my Facebook link where they could message me if they,
I can, but I'm not sure. Let me see if I can find it. I'm not sure that it will translate
I understand.
Properly, but let me see.
It's funny, right now too, we have, I have 2 homes that we're looking at. 2 nice houses. A couple of different brokers called me on and said, hey, Chris, because they knew my vision and what I wanted to do. And he said, hey, would these work? And I would look over them. I was like, man, these are great. And so really that is the fundraising we need to do right now, even just for the down payment and the operating capital to get started. So if we had someone step in and say, yeah, let's go do a plan to raise the money to walk into these 2 houses. Those are both houses that can fit 12 people each easily. And
I'm going to do this. I'm going to switch out of here, maybe, and share my screen so people can see what your Facebook page looks like. I think that might be the best way to go.
Yeah.
How's that?
Yeah. I had a guy call me once, and he said, and you can show him my personal one as well, to get through the Chris Stevens. I had a guy call me once. He said, Chris, man, what's to you guys' points? He said, why haven't you got this whole plan started yet? What's hindering you? What's stopping you? And I said, it was just that. I said, I need some people to come alongside that are business savvy and marketing and fundraising and can take that off of my plate so that we can get going.
Oh, that's lovely. Did a Thanksgiving dinner. And again, we need to be, let me see if I can find your.
There you go. Top one. Yeah.
Yep. You're the top one, Chris Stevens. Except my Facebook page doesn't want to go to your Facebook page. Oh, hold on. What? Where did it go? I thought I went there and then it's not taking me there. Why is this?
Technology is great.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you can see him right there.
Yeah.
This is where you want to go.
Well, I just want to say, Chris, for so many podcasts that Jenny and I do, I mean, we're always hammering all this negative and how, exposing all these different things. And a lot of times I just leave the podcast. I'm like, God, what are we doing as people, as humans, as Americans? And just having you on, it feels so good to have someone like you who's you're such a good person. I mean, it restores my faith in humanity that there still is. There are good people out there that are actually doing the work that God put us down here to do. And I mean, I'm so glad we had you on here, and I'm just so impressed, and I'm going to help you any way I can. That's for sure. So, I mean,
thanks, man. Thank you guys.
It's an honor to have you on here, I think.
Yeah. Amen. I appreciate it. And I want to say this to that. And here's what people got to realize too, because I tell them I don't always feel like these things. Without God, I'm not that guy. I'm not a terrible guy. I'm not a, horrible, but without God, I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
I was such a hard worker and a conservative and raised responsible that naturally I don't have sympathy for the homeless. I don't. I'm not that guy. But if you get in contact with God, God is love. He is love. Yeah. If you're going to obey him, you're going to do what he says. And when you start doing that, then what's funny is you start to activate that love in you. And we won't take another hour to preach that message, but it's great. But to your point, because I want to say that, I want people to understand that, I am not that guy. It's a love for God. And if you want to get out there and experience God in a way that you never have in your church, get out there and do the things that God did and start loving people. And here's what's interesting. It's self-propelling. Okay. So when you start to do it, the love of God just starts flowing through you more, and you become addicted to it, just like a drug. And you're like, wow, I can feel high all of the time without having to do a harmful high, because that's literally what God intended. And so I want to do something, even if you don't feel like it, because I promise you, naturally, I'm not that guy. And once you get out there, you'll become a different person as well. And let me say this, if it's not homelessness, if it's not addiction, it's something, it's old people, it's a youth home, it's something. So thank you though. I appreciate it. It's been good getting to know you guys and talk. And thank you for giving me a voice to be heard. This is one thing that is important for me in the last 6 months. I've prayed about, and I felt like God had said through specific things that, just some open doors, just to get the word out and educate people properly. And
well, again, we had a very large audience on today, huge as usual. Thank you to our X following.
Yeah,
we love you. Really nice X following. So anything that you've heard, let's help out our friend Chris. Chris, we probably better go ahead and get off of here, but honestly, God bless you in your endeavors. And thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to talk with us about this. And please reach out to us. If you ever want us to do like a little special, or you want to do anything, reach out to us. I mean, we're happy to help propel your message. So please reach out.
Okay. Thank you so much, guys. Y'all have a great day. We'll talk soon.
You as well, Chris. God bless.
Thanks, Chris.
All right. Bye-bye.
I told you that was going to be an awesome show.
Well, I tell you what, it's so funny, Jenny, how you've got a real person on the ground, like solving some of the most critical issues in every single society. And you've got, mainstream government against them, mainstream, all these, churches against them. It's just, it's unbelievable. Kind of, I don't want to use the word hypocrisy, but it kind of goes in that vein. You know, all these organizations, they preach, you know, helping in one way or another, but they're not actually helping.
They're helping themselves.
Yeah, they're helping themselves. Wow.
I mean, I was so impressed. I mean, when I don't remember two people, and thank you, whoever's watching that gave me Chris's name. Thank you. God bless you. But they said, you need to reach out to this guy because he's got a really great message about the homeless. And I mean, he got right back with me. But just in the information that he said that I turned around and sent you, I was like, oh Lord, this man needs help. This man.
And here's what's sad. So he's already, you know, let's just say probably the city. I mean, obviously you would think the very first and the biggest cheerleader behind this whole thing would be the city council, the mayor, you know, say, hey, this guy's cleaning up the town. Let's get him as many resources and people and, you know, opportunities as possible to help this guy. So you go out of the city, you go to the state, you go, you know, we're having to go all the way up, you know, to try to help him get federal money because the community itself isn't on board.
Isn't that true? She's got it down.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like, you know, we talked about earlier on. Tell me how nonprofits, I'm sure there are some out there that are actually doing good, but here's the thing. If a nonprofit comes to bear on a situation and they're a good nonprofit, they'll solve the situation, move on down, they'll cancel their nonprofit and move on down the road. But that's not the way most people work. If you solve the problem, you lose your job. And so people don't want to solve the problem because it causes them to lose their job.
Yeah.
So that's a whole bunch of it. And then, like I said, I really do believe, especially when you get when you get that public-private partnership thing working, the way it works is that the state gives the private source money, who then goes and gets the contract to build the building. It's just this absolute circle of doom.
Well, here I want to just bring something up since we were talking about housing solutions. Mm-hmm. So here's their board. They've got 12 person board here. And let me make that a little bit bigger. Uh-oh, wrong screen. You know, so you've got the president, vice president. Here's your admins here. But you've got Tulsa Area United Way. Where's the Tulsa Area United Way in helping Chris? You've got the Downtown Tulsa Partnership. You got Tulsa Public Schools. You got here's a nonprofit consultant. St. Francis Health System. Where's St. Francis at helping Chris? Okay. Humana. Where's Humana at helping Chris?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and then look at the Resolute PR and then look at the consultants. That's who's making the money.
Yeah.
That's who's getting the money, or these stupid. That's what Cindy Bird showed when she did the TPS audit. If anybody really wants to look up what Michael and I are saying about nonprofits being an absolute dirge on human society anymore, all you need to do is go look up what Cindy Bird did on their audit on TPS. And she showed how these nonprofits are coming in, sucking up taxpayer funds and making things worse rather than better, or just paying people to do nothing.
Well, there's just no accountability or even really transparency when it comes to all those nonprofits. I mean, we've seen it in basically every case, every scenario. And that's the whole point. They're so clouded, so convoluted that you can't follow anything that's even going on. They get a little bit of press here or there. Oh, they're so great. Donate. But you've got these, what do you need a 12 person board for an organization like that? I mean, come on.
Because the 12 people on the board get to say, I'm on the board.
Yeah.
Which gets them another board, which gets them in front of people like Stitt who go, oh, look, they do all these boards and we need to make sure that, it's just such a pile of crap.
Hey, maybe you just need to put on all you need on your resume is I'm a professional board member. That's it.
Yes.
I'm a professional board member.
Government should not have money to give nonprofits. Of all things, you don't steal from your neighbor to give to the poor. Duh. Okay, we probably better X out of here because it's 2:15 already. But this was an absolutely phenomenal show. Chris actually still in. He logged on. A 20-person board is a guarantee of failure. I mean, look at what they did to. Oh, why can't I think of his name? That did all of the videos, the undercover videos.
Who, here in Oklahoma City?
No.
Oh,
He has his own.
James O'Keefe.
Thank you.
Project Veritas.
Well, look what they did to James O'Keefe.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, his own board just basically screwed him over and tossed him out. I mean, you just have to, anyway.
Well, you know what's crazy is it's like these.
One thing's crazy.
Well, it's like these cities and the towns. They don't even want to know the truth, and they sure don't want it out there. Look at, like, I remember when I first moved down here in the early 2000s. Remember Brian, the guy that was out there videotaping like all the prostitutes?
Yes, I do remember him. Yes.
Here he's just going out there video. You know what they do? They go, they're trying to shut him down in every possible way. Hey, instead of let's help expose all this stuff and clean it up and clear it up. What they do? They go hammer the guy.
Yep, because government sucks. Okay. Hey, guess what's next Wednesday? Topicless Wednesday.
Topicless Wednesday.
Well, I mean, think about it. How much stuff do we have to talk about with everything going on in the education?
Well, a ton of stuff.
And
I'm going to have to work from the house. So hopefully my connection is good enough because I've got some contractors coming in. But I want to hit, Jenny, since
you want to hit Jenny.
No, what I want to hit all of that Trump stuff that I was talking to you about, the Trump RX.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is literally like going down the path of fascism. All the left, they were going all crazy, calling Trump a fascist, and we were all defending him, all this. This is literally going down the path of fascism. And with all the other investments and all the other stuff, it's unbelievable. And I had a whole deal of slides, or not slides, but screens set up. But Trump is partnering with Pfizer, Albert Bourla, who is the worst of the worst, the CEO of Pfizer, to do Trump RX discount drugs straight to the consumer.
Okay, well, let me point something out. I'm on a story right now. I'm going to finish it up today called Oklahoma Inc. We have a governor who wants to run the state like a business. We have a president who wants to run the country like a business. That's not the way it works. See, we the people aren't your friggin' employees. See, that's not who we are.
Yeah.
And I'm sick of being told that I'm your employee. I'm just part of the workforce of people out. I am so beyond. Look at my eyes. I'm getting the crazy eyes. Okay, we have to get off now because it's too late. Okay, and I have to get off. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for being on. X people, thank you. We thank you so much. And there were a couple of you that retweeted our channel today. And thank you so much, Ames and Associates. And thank you so much, Catherine, for retweeting us out. Really appreciate that. Helped us a lot. Get this information out to people who need to know it. Please look up Chris on Facebook. And he put in the Facebook stream, he put himself in there, so you can just click on him and go find him. I showed you the other Facebook place, and I threw up his Venmo somewhere. Here it is. There you go.
Yeah.
At New Life Church Tulsa. If you want to Venmo him some cash, at New Life Church Tulsa. That's it. Anything else before we get out of here?
No, that's it. I mean, as always, and I like what Chris said, a lot of these people, they need to take responsibility for their life. And we talk about that all the time here, is taking responsibility. But ultimately, I don't want the government to do that. I want to do that. I want to be responsible for myself. I don't need the government telling me how to be responsible for myself, my kids, my family, everything else. I want them to just protect my liberty, protect my rights, protect my liberty, and let me be responsible.
One would think that would be the way the founders had intended, eh?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys so much for everything. Thank you for watching. Find Chris Stevens. And Michael and I will see you again on Wednesday when we go topicless. Have a great weekend.